Hi everyone, we are delighted to be speaking with the legendary Zita West this evening, to talk all things vaginal microbiome, which is a hugely interesting and topical conversation amongst the community. We've had some great questions come in advance of tonight's live, and if you have any questions you want to ask Zita whilst we're live, please feel free. This is what we're here for. So let me just see if Zita's ready and we will make a start. We will talk about the importance of vaginal microbiome when trying to conceive, how to get it tested, diet, lifestyle, nutrition, everything that plays a role. And also we'll be talking about what to look out for. Are there any symptoms? What might cause an imbalance? You name it. Things to avoid, to prevent an imbalance. So this is really top-rate information from Zita West herself, and she will be joining any second. I'm just going to bring her in now. Hi to those who are joining. Here we are. Hi Zita.
Hi Louise, how are you doing?
I'm good. Lovely to see you today.
Thank you.
Please could you give yourself an introduction, and then we will start talking about the importance of vaginal microbiome.
Okay, so I am Zita West, and I am a midwife and an acupuncturist, and I've written many books, and I've worked in this field of fertility for a long time.
Fantastic. I was just singing your praises before. I always enjoy these sessions because I find them really insightful. And also today's topic is something that the community often asks about, and I know there's lots of research around vaginal microbiome.
Yeah.
So please could you start by explaining what vaginal microbiome is?
Well, the microbiome it's like an ecosystem within the vagina, and there's one in the gut and different parts of the body that is made up of bacteria and viruses and fungi, which make the reproductive tract, when we're talking about the vaginal microbiome, healthy, and they need to be there in a certain amount to keep it on a good pH level.
Great. And this is different to the gut microbiome.
Yes, we hear a lot more about the gut microbiome. And again, these microbiomes are all ecosystems, and they're diverse, full of organisms. They need different strains of probiotics to keep them healthy, which we'll go on to talk about.
Absolutely. So how does the vaginal microbiome impact fertility?
Well, we're finding out more and more studies now to show the impact of the vaginal microbiome on fertility, on certain infections that women get, such as thrush and BV, etc. And, you know, in the IVF world, are now doing a lot of tests to check on the endometrium microbiome. They take swabs to check on that. So it is becoming more and more important to fertility, especially for implantation. And some of the studies show that you have a better chance of IVF working if your microbiome is balanced and is healthy.
And why is that?
Well, because what happens when somebody has underlying infections means it's upsetting the balance of this ecosystem. And so when the balance is upset or depleted through diet, through food, through alcohol, etc., it means that unhealthy bacteria can get in and grow. So it affects the pH of the vagina.
And this is to help with implantation?
Yes, it's to help with implantation, but it helps with many other things as well. I mean, you know, with clients, I see women that come in and they're constantly getting thrush, they've got BV, they can't shift it. But with the probiotics, the lactobacillus, which is what's required in a good quantity, that's what helps the balance.
Okay, great. And you have a fabulous range of supplements, which I have taken many times before. Femsieve, Mensieve, to name but a few. around the topic we're talking about today, FemSeve. So people can head to our link in bio, and you're welcome to use code FHH10 for 10% off, which I know people love and are grateful for, so thank you for that. Where people can find out more about what's inside FemSeve and the benefits for everything that we're discussing. So how do you know your vaginal microbiome health? What should you look out for?
I think there are various symptoms that women that women get that they might not attribute to it. So, for example, discharge of any kind, itching, burning, painful sex, recurrent urinary infections. You know, for some women I see, they're constantly on antibiotics, and antibiotics will deplete the microbiome. So these are sort of some, and you know, and other things like IVF failure. I know it's only one part of the whole setup, but looking at that, but also recurrent miscarriage, all of those, it's become increasingly important.
Interesting. Really interesting. If anyone has any questions for Zita as we're chatting, please feel free to ask. And we've just talked about symptoms, but in terms of that imbalance, is there anything people can do to prevent that imbalance?
Well, it's hard, you know, everybody's different. Everybody's got a different microbiome, and we're finding out more and more now as we go on. So it can be affected by certain things. So lifestyle is one. You know, if you drink a lot of alcohol, if you smoke, that is going to affect the microbiome. Other things such as not just alcohol and lifestyle, but looking at your diet. You know, high processed foods aren't great. Being depleted of fiber. Fiber is very, very important. It's like you've got to feed the microbiome. Fiber is a really good prebiotic, and it's excellent for elimination as well. So it's looking at those as well, but also stress. You know, there's sort of like an emotional connotation here for so many women that are going through IVF or trying naturally. They are stressed, and that can have its own impact as well. And you know, whenever you get a discharge or an infection of any kind, you know that you're a bit run down, or something must be going on for you to have this underlying current irritation in your life.
Absolutely. And I think that stress is such a hard one, isn't it? Because you get stressed not to be stressed, and that causes its own stress. So we've had a couple of questions, if you're happy for me.
I'm just looking here.
How long does it take? Oh, great. How long does it take for FemSeve to work after starting it?
I think you've got to take it for a couple of months, definitely. And some of the studies have shown that, you know, with 21 days is a good time in the lead up to IVF. But I think it's good to, you know, to take 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you can take that whether you're having a fresh IVF cycle or a frozen transfer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there are tests that can be done that don't have to be biopsies. You can have a swab done, and you can see what your status is, and then you would retest as well. And there's many companies out there, if you Google, that do this test, and there's lots of nutritionists that do this test as well.
And if you follow our link in bio, you'll see on the Zita West Supplements website that you offer many sort of, I guess, packages, if you like. So, for example, for a frozen embryo transfer, where you're sent all of the different supplements that you would need to support different areas of your health for that particular type of cycle.
Yeah. I think as well, you know, it's quite interesting because a lot of the women I see are older as well. And with age, your microbiome will change as well, especially with like the perimenopause. So you might also be experiencing vaginal dryness. That can be a reason. And also during a woman's menstrual cycle, it does change. You know, it changes like from when you first start having your period. It's all okay, but then when it comes to the fourth phase of the cycle with progesterone, you know, you might get a bit more itching, and then at that point, so important.
Absolutely. Someone has said that they're 4 days post a 5-day transfer. They've been taking FemSeve for 30 days. Can they continue this if they're pregnant? Is it safe in pregnancy?
Yes, you can continue it when you're pregnant, but there's also a different microbiome for pregnancy, so there may be something else you can take. We usually say calm, which is the pregnancy one, but it won't do any harm at all.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
Someone's asked for the link for the product. We will link that up in our bio as soon as we finished here. Use code FHH10 for 10% off if you would like it.
Can you hear me okay,
yes.
Louise?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, it's a bit sort of like crackly.
Okay.
That's why I'm sort of...
Okay. And we're talking about preventing an imbalance. I think I've asked you this before, but for anyone new who's watching and wants to understand this, does your sort of health hygiene or regime play a part, such as what you're washing with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you've got to look after personal hygiene, and sometimes perfumed products can be detrimental and, you know, have its effect. So yeah, definitely. I sometimes wonder about tampons. I don't know whether there's any information on that, but it makes sense to me. You know, if you're dry and you're using a tampon, you're more prone to itching and maybe infection.
If someone wanted to get their vaginal microbiome tested, how would you go about doing that? How often would you recommend getting it tested?
Well, there are various tests that are done if you're going through IVF at a clinic as a pre-investigation before you start IVF, because they're now taking this much more seriously. So there's the ALICE, the ERA test that can be done. But there are specific microbiome tests that can be done through nutritionists. There are companies that do it as well, if you look and you Google. So I think you've got to give yourself 3 or 4 months between doing a test, taking the supplements, and then a retest. But it just is a bit more of an insurance policy when you're going through.
But also, the same with any supplements, you can't just pop a pill and everything's great. You need to balance.
No, you can't.
Well.
Yeah, you can't. And that's why it's important as well with diet and feeding the microbiome on foods that are going to help. So, you know, sauerkraut and fiber and things like that are all really, really good. Really reducing your sugar, because sugar isn't great, you know, and it does have its impact on reproductive health. So, you know, it's looking at all the foods you can take in as well: garlic, ginger, everything that will help feed that microbiome and make it healthy.
March is, of course, Endometriosis Awareness Month. Is there any link between those who suffer with endometriosis and vaginal microbiome?
Yeah, I think it's all within the sort of reproductive tract. So, you know, there are, you know, I think for women, it's well worth taking, definitely. But, you know, again, with endometriosis, it is an inflammatory condition. And again, it's about diet and it's about sort of probiotics and it's about omega-3. There's lots of things that can help with certain types of endometriosis. Obviously, there's very, very severe endometriosis that needs help, needs surgery, etc.
Yeah. Very good advice, thank you. And first steps, if someone has an imbalance, would you say, and they've maybe tested at home or through a kit online, would you say to get in touch with a specialist, a nutritionist?
Well, I just think, you know, I think it's important if you are having symptoms that you know what you're dealing with. So I think it's important that it's good to do a test, because then it might not just be that, there may be other factors going on. And for medics, they know what they're treating. But, you know, if you don't have any symptoms of the various things I've said, like BV, thrush, candida, repeated recurrent urinary tract infections, I think it's worth sort of taking, especially when you're trying for a baby and the lead up to IVF.
Someone has just said, I had GBS. I'm not sure what that's standing for, with my previous pregnancy. Would taking Femseed help this?
Can Holly just say what GBS is?
Yeah, that would help. And then you can answer that one. But you did
probably something really obvious, but
well, I was wondering myself, but you did mention that it is okay to take during pregnancy.
Yeah, it might be BBS.
Sorry? Oh,
it might be. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. And then
group. You're right. Groups.
Group.
Yeah. You need to keep a very close eye on that. I think it's definitely worth taking, but you know, you need to have it checked repeatedly, especially if you're pregnant, because of the delivery that you need to have.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. For a healthy vaginal microbiome, how do you, over and above everything we've discussed, you may have touched on all the points, but how do you sort of monitor keeping that as healthy as possible at these different stages of your cycle? Because you touched on kind of the luteal phase, follicular
Well,
cells?
you can't really, but you just need to be aware of the changes. And like for me, fertility is a whole body event. So you're not just focusing on the vagina, you're focusing on your life in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in balanced diets, but eating healthily as much as you can, 80% of the time, is good. Taking supplements such as omega-3, vitamin D, looking after the immune system is important. Lots of fiber in your diet, and making sure that you get that. Eating a whole range of foods, of colourful foods, because then you're tapping into all the colours and all the nourishment that brings, to help balance the system.
Water.
Yeah.
How important is staying hydrated?
Very important. Most of us don't drink enough, and especially in the winter, because you don't feel thirsty.
Yeah.
The fact is, when you do feel thirsty, you shouldn't ever feel thirsty. You should be drinking regularly, because that's your body crying out for water. So it is important to hydrate.
Could you tell us a bit more about what's in FemSieve? Because I know FemSieve, again, link in bio, code FHH10 for 10% off for those who've just joined. We'll link it up straight after this live if you want to find out more and buy it. Could you tell us a bit more about the ingredients in FemSieve, how they help with the vaginal microbiome?
Well, the studies have shown that the probiotic, or the strain, is lactobacillus, and that helps the health of the vagina. So that's what's in it. It's a probiotic. But like you said earlier, it's not just about taking a pill. It's about looking at absolutely everything else that's going on in your life. And it's interesting, when I see women, and on part of my questionnaire, looking at their digestive system, so for example, they suffer quite commonly from IBS, from diarrhea, constipation, abdominal pain, etc. Again, that is a message that something's not quite right. So it's looking at making those changes and adding nutritious foods in, fiber, and like I said before, things that are going to support gut and vaginal health, kefir, sauerkraut, all of those foods, fermented foods.
And as you mentioned, starting that preparation as soon as you can to give your body enough time for those changes to be made.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
And what about MenSieve?
Yeah, there's a microbiome for sperm as well. So some of the studies that have been done on MenSieve, and all the research is on the site, have been shown it can help with fertility. But like everything, it takes two to tango, doesn't it? It's not just focusing on the woman, it's focusing on the man as well. But I think this is a really exciting area now. I think it's great when you've got the science to back it.
Why do you think so much research is starting to come out around this? What sort of changed in the fertility world for this to suddenly start getting so much attention?
Well, it's quite interesting. I've been doing this for a long time, been working in the IVF world for a long time. And, when I look back and see the changes now in terms of protocols, drugs, the success rates, embryology, all of that's come in. And so in recent years, there's been a lot more study into nutrients. And I do think the endometrial lining, the lining of the womb, is almost like the final frontier implantation, isn't it? Because everything else we now know, but it's just narrowing it down to what may improve implantation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And does this have an effect when people are going through the stimulation process as well, and in terms of overall kind of egg health?
Yeah, but it's more about the reproductive tract. That's what FemSive's for. Egg health is again down to diet, but there's certain key nutrients that can help with eggs. So ubiquinol, vitamin D, inositol, all of those things are beneficial.
Which you cover.
Yeah. And I don't want anybody watching this thinking, it's just about supplements, nothing else. It's not. It's everything else. It's about your emotional health, being motivated to make changes, being able to make small changes. You don't have to do everything in one go. It's looking at what's best for you. I think what I see more and more now are big extremes in food and diet. So it's not uncommon, and I've got nothing against being a vegan, But it's hard to be a vegan when you are looking at your fertility, especially when you're going through IVF, because again, you're likely to be depleted unless you really work hard at getting your protein in vitamin B12, zinc, D, iodine, things like that, which again are important for fertility. So, you know, you can take all the probiotics that you like, but if you haven't got a good foundation and you're not getting some of those key components, it's not going to make any difference.
Absolutely. What about, you've talked a lot about diet, which is fantastic. Exercise, is that helpful as well?
Yeah, exercise is always helpful. But again, the hardest thing that women find is moderation. They do extreme. So I don't believe in exercise when you're going through IVF. I honestly believe that when you've got those follicles growing, that you're diverting the blood away. So you want it to be feeding the follicles because then it's getting oxygen, nutrients, etc. I don't think exercise does any harm, but I think if you're doing marathons and you are doing more than 16 hours exercise a week, I don't think that's great.
Sleep?
Sleep is vitally important. It's about building up your reserves. And again, you know, we know so much more now about sleep. We've got apps, we've got trackers, we've got everything that can monitor when we're sleeping. But, you know, when you're asleep, that's your body's time to repair. So it's very, very important that you get sleep, especially going through something like IVF.
Absolutely. Which again, like we were talking about stress, is easier said than done if you're feeling, you know, overwhelmed, panicked, anxious, etc.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of things, Eloise, that you know you can do. And I think women are great at managing so many aspects of their life, but they don't sit down for more than 5 minutes in a day. You know?
Yeah.
So it's or till it gets to the evening when they sort of crash out on the sofa. So you've got to sort of like build up those reserves of energy because you can spend them so easily.
That's so true. So someone's just asked 30 minutes a day of exercise. I don't think that's
That's absolutely fine, but I do think there's no studies to support what I'm saying in this. I do think after you've had the embryo put back, it can't fall out, and women think that it will fall out. And I know doctors don't feel that you need to rest, and I wouldn't make anybody feel guilty about their decision in terms of what they're doing, but it doesn't make sense to me to exercise during that time. And you know, when you think of the toll it takes on you, your partner, just actually going through a cycle, there are so many hurdles to go. Every day something different happens. Sometimes it's good, sometimes spanners come out of the works, or you know, you get those sideballs and it's exhausting. So by the time you get to transfer, you just want to lie down and sleep.
Yeah. This has all been such great advice. Thank you so much, Zita. Anything to end with, thinking about vaginal microbiome, kind of tips to take away?
I think, you know, if you've got any of the things I've mentioned, symptoms such as dryness, itching, painful sex, discharge, then I think you need to go and have a swab or see your doctor to see what is going on. If you're on antibiotics and large doses of antibiotics, then definitely you need to do something. You need to look at your food and you need to look at taking a supplement as well, because that balance will have gone. If you don't have any of those symptoms, you are trying for a baby or you are going through IVF, I think the studies are there, the research is there to show that lactobacillus can help. So I think you just need to sort of like follow that through. And again, personal hygiene, not overwashing with perfume, soaps and things like that, because everybody's different. It won't affect some women, but it will affect others.
Great advice. Thank you so much. Well, it was such a pleasure chatting with you, Zita. And for anyone who is new to the conversation or watching us back, please feel free to go to our link in bio to read more. And also you're welcome to use the code FHH10 if you would like to benefit from a 10% discount off the product range. Well, thank you very much for everyone joining and the questions. And feel free to DM us or DM us here at Fertility Help Hub if you have any further questions about anything else that we talked about today. We did get a question the other day which was about DHEA. What's your thoughts on DHEA?
I get asked that the whole time. DHEA, you know, I've got mixed views on it. I think for some women it's good, and for others it's not as good. I think you need to take it when you've had a blood test done, because you need to test for free testosterone, because DHA can either convert to estrogen or testosterone. So if you're taking it and you're younger, and you haven't had a test, it can be detrimental or damaging to the eggs. I certainly think in the older age group of women, it may work. And you know, when you get older and your chances are less, you want to feel that you're doing absolutely everything you can and you're ticking every box.
Yeah, great advice. That answers that question, so thank you so much. Well,
Okay.
we will speak to you very soon, Zita, and thank you so much again, and all the information.
Pleasure. Bye everybody, lovely to be with you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good evening,
Okay.
everyone. Bye.
And you. Bye bye.